Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, you think you're an expert on fear? Try this on for size. You're crumpled up in a metal ball, 6 miles above Nazi Germany. Your legs are crumpled up against your body. You're 50 below zero, and the only thing between you and the enemy machine gun fire is a few inches of glass. That was the experience for hundreds of young American airmen who volunteered to serve in World War II from the confines of the ball turret of the B-17. One veteran described it as being swallowed alive by the plane itself. Now, you've likely heard that this was the most dangerous spot on a flying fortress, but what if I told you that may not be true at all? Today, we're crawling into the most cramped, most remote, and perhaps most misconceived combat position of the entire war. If you're a fan of military history like me, be sure to like this video and subscribe. And please, also share with anyone who's interested in World War II history. Trust me, this is going to blow your mind when it comes to air combat. It's 1943. High above Nazi Germany, formations of B-17 flying fortresses trudge through hostile skies. Bomb bays loaded with ordnance for aircraft planes and oil installations. These daylight raids were America's bold strategy, flying in broad daylight, exposed to every fighter and flak gun the Germans had. Each flying fortress was equipped with defensive firepower, and suspended under it all, like a deadly Christmas ornament, was the ball turret. This was not an additional gun station. This was a design and engineering marvel that could also be an eminent death trap. Constructed by the Sperry Corporation, the Model A2 ball turret was a sphere of death, 44 inches in diameter, weighing 850 pounds when fully loaded with guns, ammunition, and a gunner. Think about that weight, 850 pounds of steel, glass, guns, and ammunition, all suspended under the bomber by a complex gimbal system that allowed it to turn to a full 360 degrees in any direction. Inside, there were two 50 caliber machine guns, each capable of firing 750 rounds a minute. With about 250 rounds each, the ball turret gunner had roughly 20 seconds of continuous shooting time before needing to reload. The guns could rise from straight down to 85 degrees above, providing nearly a full circle of fire below and around the plane. The whole turret could rotate completely around in 8 seconds, moved by hand grips so sensitive that the tiniest pressure would initiate the turn. Hard pressure, and you'd rotate so fast you'd pass out from the G-forces. But the real engineering challenge wasn't just building a rotating gun turret. It was running electrical power, oxygen hoses, intercom wires, and hydraulic fluid to a location that rotates 360 degrees without tangling everything into a killer knot. Sperry's solution was brilliant. Brush connectors and revolving unions, cutting-edge technology that allowed electrical current and liquids to flow, despite constant rotation. The crowning achievement was the Sperry K4 automatic computing gun sight, an analog computer that calculated firing solutions automatically. Input the bomber's speed, altitude, and direction, and the K4 would factor in turret rotation, gravity, target movement, and wind drift to give precise firing solutions. In 1943, this was revolutionary technology that the Germans didn't match until very late in the war. Ball turret gunners were selected not only for short stature, but also for mental toughness. The military knew claustrophobia wasn't just inconvenient, it was fatal. A panicked gunner could jam the turret rotation and expose the entire plane to enemy fire. Climbing into the turret meant crawling through a hole roughly the size of your shoulders. Imagine crawling headfirst into a washing machine. Once inside, you were bent into a mechanical fetal position, with knees wedged into your stomach, feet in heel rests, and head against the humped steel roof. You couldn't stand, stretch, or even shift position significantly. Most ball turret gunners flew without parachutes because there simply wasn't space. While other crew members had the theoretical option of bailing out, ball turret gunners had only one choice: ride with the plane no matter what. Your survival depended on the pilot maintaining flight long enough to be pulled out, the mechanical integrity of the turret under combat damage, and your ability to remain calm while potentially plummeting from the heavens. Psychological isolation was perhaps worse than physical discomfort. While other crew members could see each other and share reassuring glances, the ball turret gunner was alone, connected only by an intercom wire controlled by a foot pedal. Communication was limited and often broken by combat noise. If that intercom line was severed by hostile fire, and it often was, you were completely alone in your spinning steel bubble with no way to communicate. Then came the cold. At 25,000 to 30,000 foot bombing altitudes, temperatures dropped to 50 below zero. The ball turret had minimal insulation, just thin steel and plexiglass between you and the deadly stratosphere. Gunners wore electrically heated suits, but heating units failed frequently. Even when working, extremities remained vulnerable. Frostbite was so common that some units saw nearly 100% of their ball turret gunners suffer cold injuries. Many returned with blackened fingers and toes. Some gunners lost fingers not to bullets, but to frostbite so severe that frozen digits simply snapped off when touching gun controls. German fighters specifically targeted the B-17's vulnerable belly. Luftwaffe pilots had studied American bomber patterns and knew the standard defensive guns couldn't be depressed far enough to fire directly underneath, except for the ball turret. The standard German attack was brutal in its simplicity. Dive from above to build speed, roll inverted to bring guns to bear, then attack from directly beneath where the most defensive fire couldn't reach. The ball turret gunner had to break up these attacks before enemy fighters could inflict serious damage. You're spinning in your metal ball, staring down at the sky when you spot tiny dots that become Messerschmitt 109s or Focke-Wulf 190s, bearing in hard for their strafing run. When German fighters screamed up through the formation, the ball turrets spun into action with two 50 caliber machine guns chattering as tracers flowed toward targets moving at combined speeds of over 500 miles per hour. Here's what the movies don't show: the physics of dogfighting at those speeds. A Focke-Wulf 190 rising from 2,000 yards below would cover the distance in less than 15 seconds. Add time to see the threat, spin the turret, acquire the target, and shoot, and you had maybe 5 to 8 seconds of actual shooting time before the fighter zipped past. One veteran described it: you'd see them climbing from below, just tiny dots at first. Then they're filling your sight picture, guns blazing with orange muzzle flashes, and then you've got maybe 2 heartbeats to get rounds on target before they're gone. Miss that shot, and they'll come around and kill everyone on the plane. Even veteran gunners said the worst part wasn't enemy planes, it was flak. German anti-aircraft guns were precision accurate by 1943. Flak bursts could shatter the turret's plexiglass windows, kill or wound the gunner instantly, or jam the rotation mechanism, leaving him stuck and helpless. Here's the twist that will make you question everything you think you know about ball turret gunners: the myth that they suffered the highest casualty rates of any bomber crew position. For over 7 decades, historians, documentarians, and Hollywood have perpetuated this myth. Fatality rates have been quoted as high as 60%, higher than frontline infantry, submarine crews, or any other combat assignment. The story made perfect sense. The most exposed, vulnerable position had to be the most dangerous. But when researchers in the 1990s conducted precise statistical analysis of actual 8th Air Force casualty records, they found something shocking. Ball turret gunners had some of the lowest casualty rates among bomber crew personnel. Detailed analysis showed ball turret gunners suffered 6.4% killed in action and 5.9% wounded. Compare this to waist gunners, 12.3% killed and 8.7% wounded, or even navigators and bombardiers in the supposedly safer nose compartment who had higher casualty rates than ball turret gunners. How was the supposedly most dangerous position statistically safer? First, the turret's round shape and thick steel armor were quite protective against shell fragments and small arms fire. Ball turret gunners were enclosed in armor, unlike waist gunners exposed at open windows. The rounded surfaces deflected projectiles that would penetrate flat armor plates. Second, placement beneath the plane made it virtually immune to most attack angles. German fighters typically attacked from sides and rear, where the waist and tail gunners bore the brunt of enemy fire. Direct attacks from below were less common and left attacking aircraft vulnerable. But here's the crucial caveat. These statistics only reflected crews from planes that returned to base. They didn't account for bombers shot down over occupied territory. When a B-17 was going down, the ball turret gunner's survival chances were typically the worst. The cramped position made emergency evacuation extremely difficult under normal circumstances, and nearly impossible when the aircraft was damaged, on fire, or spinning out of control. Consider Staff Sergeant Alan McGee's miraculous story. On January 3, 1943, his B-17 was attacking German U-boat facilities when fighters damaged his aircraft. When he tried to rotate his turret to escape, battle damage had locked the mechanism. While fellow airmen parachuted to safety, McGee remained trapped as the bomber spun downward. At 22,000 feet, centrifugal force threw him clear without a parachute. He fell 4 miles and crashed through the glass roof of Saint-Nazaire railway station. Against all odds, he survived with 28 shrapnel wounds and severe injuries, spending the war as a prisoner but returning home alive. And so, we find ourselves back where we started. Was the ball turret the most dangerous station on a B-17 Flying Fortress? The answer is beautifully complex. Statistically speaking, it probably wasn't the deadliest station. That dubious honor likely belonged to the waist gunners. But statistics can't capture the psychological ordeal of flying missions alone in a spinning ball of steel, watching enemy fighters close in while bursts of flak shake your entire world. The ball turret represents something uniquely American about World War II. The willingness to create fantastically sophisticated technology and then ask young men to operate it under conditions that pushed the very limits of human endurance. It was engineering brilliance married to human courage in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. The next time you see a restored B-17 at an air show, take a moment to notice the small glass dome hanging beneath the fuselage and consider just how much courage it took to climb inside and fight a war from within that metal ball. If this deep dive into history captivated you, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more untold stories of World War II. Share this with any history enthusiasts you know, and let us know in the comments what other legendary aircraft systems you'd like us to cover next. Until then, keep uncovering the incredible stories that shaped our world.